you gonna change it up? We just finished making up. How you gonna act like that? How you gonna act like we don't be making love? You know we be tearing it up, breaking stuff that get love. How you gonna trip? And how can you forget? How you gonna act?
Listen, I wonder if Tyrese's ex plays this song and reminisces. I don't know. You are locked into hour 2 of RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Welcome in. This is the show, of course, where we hit all the trending topics and headlines across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. I am your host, Jill Munroe. I hope you are having an amazing evening and ready to get into these trending topics, because there's always more, right? There's always more. Of course there is. I don't know. I'm still thinking about the Tyrese stuff, and I know that it's got to be hard on his girlfriend. And if she has not responded in any way on social media, and for some reason, I think that Tyrese would not like it if she did. I don't know that to be fact. That's just me assuming. But I have to applaud her for that, because that's being very mature. Because even though she mentioned kind of that he's in a new relationship, she just steamrolled right over that. And that's a little rude, don't you think? A little disrespectful, just a little disrespectful. I know that technically they are still legally married. It depends, I guess, on where you stand as far as the dissolution of marriage, whether it starts at separation and people can step out and see others, or if you are wait until the ink is dry on the actual papers and then you can move forward. Guess it's a personal choice as long as everybody is informed. Rock out, do what you do. But that has to be just a tad uncomfortable. Like, girl, what you doing? Why are you out there? I mean, I'm sure she knows if what Tyrese, again, indicated is true, that she did try and circle the block and circle back on that one. He might have shared that, but that certainly can, make things, like I said, a little testy with the holidays coming up. Halloween's next week, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Tyrese's birthday because he's a Capricorn. I don't know. I do not know. It just seems like tricky times. Tricky times. Anyway, look. I think that we all, well, not we all, Tyrese especially, I think they really should consider taking us out of the group chat, though. Maybe they could work it out more efficiently. Tyrese doesn't have to cry anymore. His point has been proved. He doesn't have to, sound like a bitter ex. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, dang, when he was putting her out there like, now all these men are going to know. I was like, that seems very not nice to say about your child's mother, Tyrese. Like, this stuff is forever. I don't. I mean, she's clearly not over him. She's saying it. And I feel as though if he was truly over her, he wouldn't keep circling back to social media with these topics.
I agree with that.
And that's why I said I wonder how his girlfriend feels, because on the surface, what he's saying is very pro his new relationship and very supportive of that. But there's still a lot of energy
Right,
behind
there's still
it.
a lot of energy that you're expending on your ex, and we've been together for so long, and the past, the feelings of anger should long be no longer lingering.
Yeah, it's been like 3 going on 4 years that they've been separated and broken up. Now, I don't know if during that time period things happen. They are a married couple. And listen, things happen. I don't know anything about that. But I do know that he has been, like, he had another girlfriend before this girlfriend. But they've been together for a little bit too, so.
But that happens sometimes when you break up. I mean, you gotta go.
The rebound.
You gotta go. Get out in the field, as they say.
Get your bearings back, right? Get your sea legs.
And then once you stable again, it's like, oh, okay, I can look for Mr. or Mrs. Right, whoever You
got to test the waters, get yourself back acclimated to the single scene, because it does move very quickly. very, very quickly. It's very different in those streets, right? I'm sure it is very different from those streets even 3-4 years ago when he first met Miss Lady. So, you know. Pretty Brown Mimi, she's already getting ready for our topic coming up about Shannon Sharpe. She says, Shannon Sharpe is a 55-year-old Super Bowl Hall of Famer. I had no idea he was so icky, but the more he expresses himself on his podcast, you know what's interesting about that, I think, is that really it's because the face of media is being changed, right? When Shannon was on, like, if you can remember back, way back when he was on CBS, right? It's a very conservative network. They didn't really get into too much personal stuff, side stuff. Then when he was on FS1 and he got on that streak where he took on the Unk persona, you know, and he was coming with his Black and Milds and do-rags and Crown Royal bags on the air. Bit much, but it worked for him. You know, it was all in good fun. We liked that. We took it on. We accepted that because I feel like Shannon was somebody that, even though he's obviously a Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champ, he wasn't someone that the general public knew in that way until
his relevancy kind of
until he got on with Skip. And then, because really, if you think about it, morning sports shows are really seem to cater to, at one point they didn't, but they seem to cater to a more urban audience, the way that they're presented and how they roll out in their subject matter. Specifically, First Take and Undisputed. If you look at the music that they select, some of the guests, the way that the shows have evolved over the last few years, you look at it, and to me, not only, but if you put together a sketch of who they believe their perfect viewer is or their main viewers, to me, it's going to be a Black person. Just my opinion, you know? And so I think that all of that helped to shape, because I don't feel like Shannon was someone that, again, respected. Obviously, people knew him, but wasn't attached to the culture in the way that he has been and the way that the things have developed over the past 7 or 8 years with that.
Well, yeah, he's been able to push himself, maybe not intentionally, into the cultural zeitgeist, from the memes to the affectionizing of calling him Unk.
Exactly.
So I think that like all came at a pivotal time, like you're saying, where it's like, you know, while what you were doing beforehand wasn't necessarily being is seen because you've like tied your roots into the culture, now it's being seen. And so by that way, it's like a whole different ballgame.
It's very different. Well, when we come forward, we will get into his comments about his date in 1990 when he was an NFL rookie and some other things. Of course, you're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talent, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, Hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Hey, keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. So we were discussing Shannon Sharpe, and recently on his Nightcap podcast with Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson, he was discussing how when he was a rookie, way back in the aughts, 1990 to be specific, Shannon, well, first let me back up. The reason they even got on this topic is because there is a video that's been swirling around on social media for about a week or so. And basically it was a young lady and she went on a date with a guy and something happened. She was late getting dressed. They missed their reservation. So he ended up taking her to the Cheesecake Factory for dinner. And she was like, look at me. Do I look like I should be at the Cheesecake Factory? And so there was all this debate on, was she being ungrateful? Did she look like she could be at the Cheesecake Factory? Because y'all are mean and you're going to judge. And also just the merits of going to the Cheesecake Factory for a first date. So before we talk about Shannon, we're just going to talk about that really quickly. People are like, what's wrong with the Cheesecake Factory? Back in the day, that used to be like a killer date. That used to be the spot to go to. And it did. Like the Cheesecake Factory out here in LA, in Marina Del Rey, that used to be the spot to hit up. That used to be the spot where you could go and see the ballers. Like you would legitimately go in there and see, the little NFL and NBA players on their dates. They would go on dates there. But 30 years later, I don't know. And here's the thing. I don't think that it's a problem going to grab something to eat at the Cheesecake Factory. But I don't think that I would like it to be our first date or our second date. Right? And I like the Cheesecake Factory. Their Cajun pasta, banging. The Tex-Mex egg rolls, outstanding. However, this is the thing, and I think that this is what kind of sometimes people forget to put into the mix. First dates are not just about the food. They're about getting to know someone, having conversation, and no disrespect, again, to the Cheesecake Factory. I like the Cheesecake Factory. But when you're trying to get to know someone and have good conversation, if there is a family next to you with their kids, making their little crayon paper airplanes and the baby's crying, or a big birthday party and the Cheesecake Factory staff is coming out to do their happy birthday dance and any of that, how they come out and do the little performance. It could be loud. It is not the environment I feel like most people want to go into I would think, a first date, because that is usually about, you getting to know the person, you like really listening and having a conversation and exchanging something. So granted, you could do that in theory anywhere and you can pick your choice. I'm not saying you got to go to, crustacean, katana, catch. I'm not saying you have to do that. Work within your budget. Be okay with it. But I do think there is something to be said about being in the right environment so that you can have conversation, or the focus can be on the date environment and maybe not like, happy birthday, baby, or whatever's going on, people watching the game at the bar. It's just a different type of vibe. And I think for early dates, you may be looking for something a little bit different. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's just a quick aside, quick thought, but do what you want. I'm not judging. As long as you are enjoying your date, go wherever, right? So that's that on that. But let's get into what Shannon said. So listen, he said the year was 1990. Picture it, right? At that time, as the 380th overall pick in the NFL draft, right? He wasn't living the life of luxury yet. Again, remember I said 1990. Shannon Sharpe is a 55-year-old man, right? So he said his rent and car payments were about $1,000 combined. This is in the days of old. He was making $64,000. That's regular people's salary right now, right? This is what he was making on his rookie deal. And he said that he also, sent money home to take care of his family and everything. But on this particular night, the young lady that he was seeing, he decided to take her out on a dinner date, right? And they went someplace nice. And he said that he was like, oh, I want to do my big one for my girl, my boo. I want to impress her. I'm going to order something a little less so that, I have the space for her to order something a little bit more, right? So he said they were, this is when he was in Denver. Remember, he got drafted to the Broncos, okay? So I can't imagine like going out to dinner in Denver in the 90s. Like, Denver is not a coastal city, so, the seafood's probably going to be a little tad more expensive. It has to get flown in, right? And let's just say Shannon was a little embarrassed by this story, but, he said, I'm not going to get what I would normally get. I'm going to go a little down just in case she goes up. So the girlfriend was looking over the menu and he said, she was like, what goes with lobster? And he said his whole demeanor changed. And his response to her was condoms, because if you order that, we're going to have sex tonight. I didn't know, I can't remember the comedian that made the joke, but he said there is definitely a screwing side of the menu when you go to a restaurant. And if you are not in that mode, keep your eyes on the other side of the menu. Don't go out there ordering things that you, I guess, maybe would not normally expect to order. But see, that's the thing too. What if she always ordered lobster when she went out? I don't know. We don't know that. We can't go that far back. Suffice it to say, though, Shannon said she did not order lobster, and he never saw her again after that. But I do want to pose the question, right? Is there, and we've all seen the $200 debates, but is there a certain dollar amount where you feel like, oh, we're taking this to the next level. Oh, this is an elevated date. Or do you control that by controlling the environment where you take your first date to? And that's why we have all of the people complaining about the coffee dates and ice cream dates, because really there's no $100 ice cream cone. I don't think. There might be some dipped in gold specialties somewhere, right?
Might be.
Might be. But generally, you could probably get if it's a hot day and you're being creative, museum and then ice cream after. If it works out, maybe dinner. I don't know. We'll see. Fahima in the chat says a lobster dinner automatically gets him the pleasure of a second date. I say so too, Fahima, but apparently that's not what went down on either
lobster
side.
Dinner. See, I'd have to go back to like, how do I know you eat lobster all the time? I don't want to prejudge, but lobster seems like a lot for a first date. I mean, it's been known for years to be so expensive. Like, it's not like you wouldn't know. It says $200.
So if she did crab or shrimp, would that be better?
I think crab or shrimp would actually be better. Or they even got the imitation crab.
No. No. Imitation crab might mean that you're not into health. That doesn't seem like it would work out. I mean, I do think listen, I don't know though. I agree with her though. If a man said that to me, I probably would proceed to order the lobster, put my credit card down and pay for my dinner only, and say thanks for the evening and skedaddle. I wouldn't have talked to him again either. But that's a delicate conversation because, of course, no one wants to be taken advantage of. No one wants to feel like I am just a means to an end for you to have an expensive meal, maybe that you wouldn't have treated yourself to. But if the point is to impress a potential mate, show them the best, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do nice things and be prepared. You were thinking along the right lines, Shannon, but how is she to know that there's a limit on what she's allowed to order? Kennedy in the chat says, I really don't think you should be dating grown people and expecting to date without spicy time at the end. Just stay home and read a book if you're going to do that. Really? That is interesting. So you think that, is this a first date or you just think in general? Like if you make it to date 2 or 3, do you believe that that automatically indicates we like each other and we could get physical at any time? Because I don't necessarily agree. And again, I don't agree with, and I don't feel like this is not something I've ever had to do. I don't feel like I have to go out with someone that I don't like in that manner or trick them to make them feel like I like them to go and enjoy a restaurant or to get a free meal. I'm not that desperate. It's not that deep. I can take myself. If I couldn't take myself, I got credit. So slam that puppy down if it's that important. But I'm not going to spend time and share a meal and break bread with someone that I'm not checking for just to get a meal. I don't know if other people do, but that's not my get down. Now, if it's just a friend, right? If we are just in friendship or just cool, that's something else. But then again, I don't know. Does it get tricky? Because sometimes your homie could have other thoughts in the back of their mind. Again, that's why I ask, is there a dollar amount? Is there a certain meal item? Like if they ordered, top shelf liquor, that rare scotch or whiskey or something like that, a rare wine, is that a trigger too? Like, oh, I know you don't drink that all the time. You must be you must be getting it laid out for something later. Kennedy says dinner dates require intimacy, therefore dinner is serious. Really, I've never heard that. That is interesting. So if it's a lunch date, does that mean it's just entitled to a kiss? Does the time of day matter? Because I think that is an interesting idea, that if we go to dinner, that means that we are moving along the spectrum. Should first or second dates only be at certain times of the day, like, to ensure that we're evolving to the nighttime part and the spicy part? I don't know. That's an interesting thing. Fahima says she did ask him to feel him out to see if it was permissible. I agree with that. She asked what goes with lobster, and, he kind of indicated that, Lord, We're on the radio. She indicated that eggplant goes with lobster. He indicated that eggplant goes with lobster. And she responded accordingly. And I'm not mad at any of it. I just wonder how the dinner exchange went after that. Like, was it light conversation? Was it cool? Or was it very stifled until the end of the night? You know? Because if you hit me with condoms, I'm going to hit you with, I'm going to laugh. I might order my lobster anyway. And then, you know, whatever. Oh, no. Kennedy, I want to hear more about why you say that dinner dates require intimacy. That's the first time I ever heard something like that. That's an interesting way to look at it. Anyway, you know, it's funny that this came up because I randomly was watching Basketball Wives, the first 2 seasons over the weekend. And ironically enough, it was when Chad hooked up with his first wife. I guess you can call her that briefly, Evelyn Lozada. And, you know, they hooked up on the first date. And I'm trying to remember what the meal was. I don't think that the meal necessarily was eggplant. I don't know. Pretty Brown Mimi says, men have changed. Y'all just want sex for dinner now. Wow. I think that the way that we discuss relationships, especially in our community, has gotten very transactional over the past few years. I feel like that it's very, nobody wants to look like the sucker, right? So a guy doesn't want to feel like he's being taken advantage of. No one wants to feel like I'm being used for a meal. So that's why I think
that's why like the low investment first dates go well, but apparently I'm hearing that like people are having issue with them. Like you were saying, like there's been this whole debate like, oh, I'm tired of ice cream and coffee dates, when it's like, shouldn't, if this is a first date, still have like a level of low risk commitment or low risk investment?
Well, I think there's a couple of things happening, right? Because here's the crux. People are always told, excuse me, I just sneezed, you should date multiple people, right? But as a man, if you're dating multiple people, that could get expensive, right? I mean, if you're going on 3 dates a week and we all expect, you know, a $50 dinner at someplace nice, that could start to wear on a young man's pockets or an old man's pockets, you know, with drinks and dessert and all of that. That could get pricey, right? But you don't want to lock in.
What if you have to pay for parking?
All of that, right? Parking, you got to put your look together. You got to get your hair cut.
Right, I can't show up with no fresh cut.
Right. So I understand. I am sensitive to that. Could be a little pricey. However, because men are just trying to get to the bag, maybe not just men, people, we'll say people, right? There's a lot happening, so I think that there's less time spent on conversation, so it makes these first dates sometimes awkward too. You don't even know if you really like the person. You're just trying to get through this part so we can establish a little something so we can get to the vavoom later. Listen, when we come forward, we'll get more into this topic. We're also going to talk about Tyler Perry's new deal with a streaming network. He has more in store for you. And, of course, more trending topics and headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports on the other side.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. An off-duty pilot is being charged with attempted murder for allegedly trying to crash an Alaska Airlines flight. The airline said the flight carrying 83 people from Everett, Washington to San Francisco diverted to Portland Sunday due to the incident. Police say suspect Joseph Emerson was overwhelmed by the flight crew and remains behind bars. On a sad note, Georgetown University's women head basketball coach Tasha Butts, who is black, has lost her fight with breast cancer. She was diagnosed with the disease 2 years ago and left the team in September. Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes are returning to the gridiron. Colorado comes out of the bye week and will visit 24th-ranked UCLA on Saturday night at the Rose Bowl. After losing to Stanford, the Buffaloes dropped to 4-3 on the season. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Escape with the best stories of the year on Audible. Hear celebrity memoirs, mysteries, true crime, sci-fi, and more. Ignite your imagination with audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Join LA Civil Rights and the Reparations Advisory Commission's Black Experience Study live this fall. Learn about the city's plans for reparations and join the study in real time. For more information and to register, visit laisforeveryone.com today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency on low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. Let's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Jill curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You see me heavy work. You see me do me dirt. So me better work. When you walk a line. I'm in the cafe, drive me a dessert. No time to have you lurking. You make a like, now you don't like it. You know I dealt with you the nicest. Nobody touched me in the righteous. Nobody text me in a crisis. I believed all of your dreams are duration. You took my heart, all my keys, and my patience. You took my heart, I must leave a decoration. You mistaken my love, I brought for you for foundation. All that I wanted from you was to give me something that I never had, something that you never seen, something that you never been. But I wake up and nothing's wrong. Just get ready for work.
You know I had to let that Rihanna vibe for a minute because we love Ree. I miss Ree. I do. I told you, Rihanna's a vibe. I get it. You know, vocals are different, interesting. I'm curious to see what she's going to come back with. As I stated, Auntie was probably my favorite Rihanna album. Really liked it. I liked the visuals that she gave us for the Super Bowl. So I imagine if she's coming back with a concert, you know, it's going to be something epic visually and exciting. So there's that. Listen, we have been talking about cheap dates, what is owed, what is appropriate, and all of that. And as I always mention, our YouTube chat, yeah, they are getting to it. The conversation's always entertaining. So Urban Spinster asked Kendi in the chat, who has mentioned that dinner dates require intimacy and dinner is serious, right? So Urban Spinster says, a meal means you have to put out. Pretty Brown Mimi says, ice cream dates, that's for kids. Adults can have a nice yet affordable meal. I think, you know, on a hot summer day, right, if you're doing something outside, because this is the other thing too, right? I don't know if people are dating off the app, right? But if you're dating off of these dating apps and stuff, you may not, want to spend extended time with these people because you don't know them. I don't know how many FaceTimes you're doing before you meet up, how much texting, what is safety is a concern or whatever. So I think those things are appropriate, like kind of, maybe get to know you, like a pre-date, if you will, or something. But it depends on your comfort level with the person. And I guess, how you feel about it. Listen, Kendi is letting it go down. They said, and I'm unclear if Kendi is a man or a woman, so I want to be clear on that. I don't know where this opinion is coming from, just their opinion. Here's the deal. If a woman sees you'll allow her to use you, she'll lose respect for you. You can't allow her to have dinner without putting out. That's a first-class ticket to getting cheated on. Kendi, let me tell you something right now, baby. I don't know if you're a man or a woman, as I mentioned, but have you lost your mind? Are you serious right now? Because you treat someone to a meal, and if they don't have to give it up afterwards, that means that they're going to cheat over you and walk all over you? What type of women, again, are you dealing with? Check the people that you were involved with. Because to me, there should be no expectation of anything on the first date. We are getting to know each other. You are not assured anything, no matter the price point. Now, what I will say, and this is a little different, a little switch, if someone is flying you out, Think about that thing before you get on the plane. Do not let someone fly you out, especially if you're going to stay at their residence, if you are unsure about how you feel about them sexually. Now, that does not mean that you have to do anything, but be clear, at least in your mind, how you feel about it so you are not caught off guard. Because most people think plane tickets equates with we getting busy. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand the thought process. And what I will say is if you accept plane tickets, be very, very clear on where you stand on that and make sure you got hotel money. You know, those are just my thoughts. You might feel, would you say? If you're unsure, yeah, just make sure you know, you don't allow a one-way ticket. Make sure you get a round trip. Right? Because we have heard of people being stranded because they decided that sex was off the menu for that thing. I don't know. I think when you're talking about traveling and, you know, transporting the stuff, you should think about it differently. But I definitely don't think a meal, no matter the price point, is like, yeah, that is the bang out side of the dinner. That's the eggplant, that's the side that goes with all of this on this side of the menu. Eggplant. I don't feel that way. Would you say, Kamal?
So I don't think he's totally wrong for feeling that way, though. I think maybe his execution was a little not tactful. But
But I feel like there is no price point. You can't say, for me, in my opinion, oh, let's see, $150 for the meal. You got 2 drinks. You got a little dessert. Oh, we banging tonight. You can't say that to me. It's not going to go over well. Because what? No. If we feel so inclined, but there is not a price point that you hit that's like, bing, access granted. We don't work like that.
I would hope that's funny you say that. I would hope, you know, maybe not hope, but I think that that's a good principle to have. Maybe it's a very fluid number, if there's even a number into consideration.
I mean, listen, I understand the thought process. You're like, this is my hard-earned money. I want to get something in return. But what you are getting, it is an investment. And investments don't necessarily always pay dividends right away. You have to wait some time to get those dividends back in return.
So then why does it matter how much we invest on that date then?
Because you're courting me and you want to impress me. You want to be in my company.
Why is that impressive? Why is me not taking you on a nice ice cream date, curated to a playlist or something romantical and schmantical that doesn't cost a certain amount of money?
It could be most men aren't going to be that creative. Let's be honest. They don't have that romantic streak in them. Some do. I'm not saying that. They're not going to put a lot of effort into it. And nobody also wants to feel like they're on, either side wants to feel like they're on, you know, a treadmill, a rotating thing. Like, oh, slot you in. I got 3:00 on Sunday available. Next week, I got Tuesday at 2. Girl, it might be you or it might be Kimberly. You know, I don't know. Whichever one.
But do you go, is that like a thing that women do or sometimes think about in comparison to how another person is going to be treated?
I think what women consider is, one, no one wants to feel like cheap or that they were, you know, gotten to easily. So, you know, $200 and you got all access to the cookie seems kind of cheap. If you think about big pictureisms, right?
Okay.
You know, perhaps. 2, I think that it is both sides being concerned that they're going to get used. A woman doesn't want to feel like, oh, he's just buying me this meal to get what he wants, and then we're going to be in the chase. Then we're going to be in high pursuit. Then I'm just in his rotation, and we're not really headed anywhere. It was just a means to an end. A man, like we talked about, doesn't want to feel like he's being used for a meal or to get to this restaurant or to get to some place you couldn't get to on your own. You know, so it's subjective. I do think people need to talk more, communicate their needs, communicate their expectations, right? But I definitely don't think that there is a price point, at least in my opinion, where that unlocks the cookie for you. I don't think so. And I feel like if you think that way, we probably should nip this in the bud right here because what?
Because it is mad transactional. Like, where do you go from that after the conversation? Like, you've let me know all intentions and what you expect at the end of this transaction.
Right.
This interaction.
So it's hard for it to be natural, or it's hard for you to, like, if a guy lets you know that and you play into it and you're like, okay, I'm just going to order shrimp. That means that effectively, too, he can always back you back down into the cheaper seats because with the promise.
Okay, so you think long term.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, here's the thing, though. I think that these, like, small things set up the pattern, the expectation for what's going to happen down the line, right? Just like who was it? Kendi said that. Shout out to Kendi, you're a guy. I figured you were a guy, Kendi. What happened? You could tell me. Open up.
he has
Release.
some bright ideas.
Kendi got some bright ideas.
Yeah, I like Kendi's idea.
You like Kendi's idea? I think Kendi's been hurt. And that is why the responses are as such. I think somebody took advantage of Kendi, and now Kendi's like, no way. And I understand it. I do. But I also think that there is no dollar amount that says cookie. You know what I'm saying? It's not
I agree.
realistic.
It's almost like both sides are right.
They are. And you just have to find the right person to match up with who is with the same agenda as you are. There is always someone that will meet, you know, what did they say? Lid for every pot, pot for every lid, whatever the saying goes. You can find your match and link up, but it's no price point for me. And my credit card works everywhere. So if it's too much for you, I got it. We need to split the bill. Cool. We won't be talking again. And it's okay. I understand. Everything isn't for everybody, you know? Urban Spinster says, so a man paying for dinner is being used in your opinion. Interesting. Urban Spinster, is that to me or to Kendi? I'm going to assume it's to Kendi just based off of Kendi's response. So I am going to not answer that. Fahima says, Kendi, so what if she cooks for him on the first date? Let me tell you this. First date is probably not going to be at my house or his house because that's too easy of a leap to the bedroom. You ain't got to go no place. You got something to say. Come on, you're thinking. I see it. I see it.
I said it's also kind of just like that's a big safety thing nowadays if you're meeting people off the apps too. Like you want the first date to be at his home. And you certainly don't want him to know where you live.
Nope.
So
listen, what I know, right, is app dating is not for me. I've never gone on a date on an app. But at the suggestion of a friend, I think I talked about this a couple months ago, like for a period of time, for 30 days, maybe 45 days, I put myself on an app. And it's just not for me. It's not for me. This was I was like, oh, I did literally did nothing. I may have had 2 interactions with people, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. This doesn't work for me. I'm not that. I prefer in-person interactions. And 2, I know that, I have friends, I have some friends that have had some very good experiences on dating apps. And then I also have some friends that use dating apps as, tic-tac-toe. What are we looking for this week? There. This looks good. Let's see what works out. So I do not know. Shout out to DJ Black 909 in the chat. I see you in there. Pretty Brown Mimi says, no, ice cream is dessert after a meal. Could be. Listen, you got to do what works for you. I certainly understand if an ice cream date is not appropriate for you. Pretty Brown Mimi says, I'm in Florida. Lobster is everywhere. It sure is. I know in Miami, if you go down on the beach, they have those little picture books with the lobster there. You could go right in there and get a pretty, decent price. It depends on what the market rate is. Urban Spinster says she would politely get up and leave if that was the response. Dolomite fan number 1 says, just to clear things up, dates should now be Dutch to avoid confusion. Some of these dudes expecting to smash if they buy a value meal. I do agree that people think any amount of money entitles them cookie benefits. And I disagree. It's really just a conversation. And I also think the reason why, if you think about men in the club and what they talk about buying drinks, if you're trying to spread your seeds everywhere, that's a lot of drinks to buy. It's going to hit your pockets hard. So maybe you need to practice a little more discernment. I don't know. When we come forward, we'll get into more trending topics and headlines, more about this date stuff, and we'll talk Tyler Perry and his new venture. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
This season, your coffee orders are getting warmer, and your outfits are getting cozier. The world keeps changing, and so does COVID-19. That's why this season's COVID-19 shots have been updated. They're one of the best ways to help protect yourself against COVID-19. You can get a COVID-19 shot at the same visit as a flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC. Talk to your healthcare provider to learn more and schedule at vaccines.gov. And don't forget to get extra cinnamon spice. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? 'Cause everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. We were talking Shannon Sharpe and his 90s date night, that his date was like, what goes with lobster? And his reply was condoms. Now, that's funny. I definitely laughed. I would have laughed if he said it to me. I just know that it would not have ended the night with condoms, because no, especially not a first date. But in our chat, right, they're going in. It's pretty funny too. DJ Black 909 says, on first dates you go Dutch. Pay for you, they pay for them, problem solved. Is it though? Because that's not courting. Like, if we're gonna do that, right, then we're not really on a date. We're two friends hanging out. Right? I don't know. Again, I'm from a different time. I remember when we actually used to go on dates, but you could go to the Cheesecake Factory sometimes. So I don't know. First date me at the Cheesecake Factory, I'm not doing it. It's probably not going to work for me. Maybe date 4 or 5, but not 1. It's definitely not going to work. Listen, Pretty Brown Mimi said something. I lost it. She said, take an Uber home. Tell them you've got an emergency, then get in an Uber. See, here's the thing. There would be no need for me to get into an Uber, because first date, I don't know you. You're not picking me up, because then you would know where I live, right? So we're probably not riding to the first date together. We probably will meet at the location. I think that's fair. I mean, you could do whatever you want to. Maybe you've talked to this person long enough. Maybe you were friends first and then decided, I don't know. But just in general, like a stranger, someone I just met and barely know, nah, I'm good. We'll meet there, because you don't need to know where I live. I don't need to know where you live yet. Well, I would like to know where you live, but I don't need to see it and go there. We're not doing that. Safety, location on for somebody. And we're going to meet up at the first place because I don't know about that. Urban Spinster says, I have a male friend who loves to eat at expensive restaurants and insists on these type of dates and is mad when the person isn't into him. I mean, you got to do it for the love. Do it for the love of food. Do it for the enjoyment and good company with no expectation. That's how your feelings don't get hurt. That's how you don't get let down, I believe. Pretty Brown Mimi says, if we're going Dutch, don't eat off my plate. Eating off the plate is... That's an elite thing. Like, you may share, but putting your actual fork in my plate that's been in your mouth, we got to talk about that. We got to work our way to that point. I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't share sometimes, but still, it depends on what the meal is. I might really want my food. It might really be something that I've been craving, and I may not feel like sharing that night.
Might be lobster.
Might be lobster, may not want to share my lobster, may not want to share my scampi buttered lobster tail or something like that, stuffed lobster tail. Urban Spencer says apps weren't for me either, too many liars and weirdos. Listen, I don't know what's on there. I just know that I looked around and I was like, this doesn't seem like the world for me. Like, one man I saw on there was very, very aggressive with this headline. He was like, I don't have time for a bunch of conversation. What you see is what you get here. And if you just want to talk, don't bother to hit my line. I was like, oh, poor baby. What happened?
I mean, he probably didn't get no responses.
I would imagine not, because that seems very off-putting. Like, who hurt you, sir? And maybe you should keep that
all on the app.
Off the app. Exactly. I don't know. Listen, what I will say is kudos to everybody that is currently out here trying to make it happen in the dating world in 2023. Between the apps with dial and deliver, just regular Instagram where, people think they have endless choices, COVID, all of these things make it really complicated to date, I would imagine. And then you got to add in, know your budget levels, like, I got to stick within the $75 range to make sure that he understands this is a kiss on the cheek date and not a hot cheeks date. I don't know. Like, that just seems very, very complicated.
Like a pricing tier. We can make it simple, though. Like, it's not the worst idea to come up with the budget and the tier list.
This tier says kiss on the cheek. This tier says maybe a long hug, good night. I don't know.
Tier says church hug.
Church hug. Space in between. DJ Black 909 says, put it this way, Jill. What if the date don't work out? There's no refund on the first date. There isn't. But here's the thing. You still got something out of that date. You got a good meal. You got the ambiance. It's not like you aren't eating too. It's not like you weren't having an exchange too.
Yeah, but you got the meal you could have got the meal by yourself and not paid the $70 for the lobster.
You could have, but you never know. You got to be in it to win it. You got to take a chance. You had an experience and got some good food to boot, right? And maybe if it doesn't work out, you have a good story to share with your friends. That's worth something, right? Right.
I have plenty of stories to share to share with my friends about chicks not wanting to pay for dates at all.
I mean, again, you're supposed to be courting. The problem is y'all trying to take out 15 women at the same time, and you're not doing a very good job vetting the women. And so you're getting let down because you're going after someone that made it plain, hey, this is something else. I'm not sure. Listen, when we come forward, we're going to get into more trending topics and headlines. We're going to talk about Jennifer Hudson and her reluctance to reveal exactly who her boyfriend is, even though we all know it's common. Is that the right thing to do in this social media era where we're all in everybody's group chat and things are getting misconstrued? We're also going to talk about Tyler Perry and, of course, more trending topics and headlines. You were locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports on the other side.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. An off-duty pilot is being charged with attempted murder for allegedly trying to crash an Alaska Airlines flight. The airline said the flight carrying 83 people from Everett, Washington to San Francisco diverted to Portland Sunday due to the incident. Police say suspect Joseph Emerson was overwhelmed by the flight crew and remains behind bars. On a sad note, Georgetown University's women head basketball coach Tasha Butts, who is black, has lost her fight with breast cancer. She was diagnosed with the disease 2 years ago and left the team in September. Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes are returning to the gridiron. Colorado comes out of the bye week and will visit 24th-ranked UCLA on Saturday night at the Rose Bowl. After losing to Stanford, the Buffaloes dropped to 4-3 on the season. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Prime members save more at your Amazon Fresh store. As a Prime member, you'll save 10% on hundreds of items in store, from organic produce to pantry staples to handcrafted pizza. Head to Amazon.com/fresh locations and find a store near you.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices.